We'll have tight security.
Hi everyone, this is Lotus. Shut up. Gosh damn it. Hello everyone, this is Lemonade, and today I will be doing an analysis on Limbo. Now Limbo is basically a support warframe that pretty much brings utility to his team, but he does have some offensive capabilities. And today I'm going to show you how he works and what you can do to get the most out of him in his current condition until DE decides to go back and look him over and improve upon him. Okay, so let's look at Limbo's first ability, Banish. Banish is a single target ability that deals minor damage, knocks a target down, and sends them into the Rift dimension. Now how this ability works, or rather how the Rift mechanic works, is that weapons can only deal damage to targets in the same dimension as the attacker. So you can see I'm not getting attacked, but I cannot deal any damage back. Now, in spite of this, abilities do pass through the Rift. So I can simply cast it again, deal damage, knock them down, and then now I can deal weapon damage as normal. Now you can also banish friendly units such as teammates, specters, NPCs such as the defense target and sorties, sentinels, and companions such as Kubros. You can use this in order to prevent damage to them, give them the opportunity to move around, as well as give teammates the ability to use abilities uninterrupted, so long as said ability is not classified as weapon damage. Now, secondly, is Limbo's second ability, Rift Walk. Now, Rift Walk basically sends Limbo into the Rift, where he acquires all the benefits and drawbacks of the Rift dimension. As you can see, I am no longer taking any damage from the enemy's weapons, but I will not be able to do any damage with my weapons as so. Now, if you look to the bottom right, you can see that my energy is slowly increasing. When you're inside the Rift, you generate 2 points of energy per second. This also applies for teammates, so you can use this as a means of getting ready for the next encounter. Now, it's actually more effective to move in and out of the Rift as necessary. In order to cancel Rift Walk early, all you have to do is tap the Rift Walk button a second time. Now, if you're a teammate and you've been banished by Limbo and you no longer wish to be inside the Rift, all you have to do is roll in order to leave. Now, here's a handy tip. Did you know that the Syndicate Blast effect from the Syndicate weapon counts as an ability? This means that it'll pass through the Rift and deal damage to all enemies within the area, as well as apply debuffs regardless of what dimension they're in. Okay, this is Limbo's third ability, Rift Surge, which increases the amount of damage Limbo is able to do to enemies inside the Rift. This ability increases the weapon's base damage by 3 times before taking mods into account. Limbo's fourth ability, Cataclysm, is basically an AoE banish, but it's persistent. It creates a bubble that deals damage to all enemies inside of it, and sends all enemies, allies, NPCs, and targetable defense objects, such as cryopods, into the Rift dimension. This can also be used in order to bring bosses, such as Tel'Regor, into the Rift dimension. Now, the best way to use Cataclysm is to attack from a distance. Now, if you no longer need Cataclysm up, or if you make a mistake, you can simply activate the button again in order to close Cataclysm early. Here's an example of how I mod Limbo. Now, I mainly focus on duration and range. I put in a little bit of power strength in order to increase the damage multiplier of Rift Surge when I'm able to, but for the most part, I'm not worried about it unless I'm absolutely sure that I'll be able to get away with keeping Cataclysm up for extended periods of time. Now, I use Prime Continuity in order to increase the duration, Narrow-Minded to tighten the size of Cataclysm in order to not have it too big because you don't want to have too many enemies inside Cataclysm in Limbo's current condition, while also increasing the duration. Fleeting Expertise for power efficiency. The negative 50% power duration doesn't matter too much. Vitality for some defensive. Now, if you're better at avoiding damage than I am, you might be able to swap this out, but you gotta have something there because I really don't know what else to put for him at this moment. Streamlined for efficiency to no dot. Haven to top off healing teammates. You can also heal companions such as Kubros, Sentinels, and you can also heal NPCs such as Specters and the Sortie defense target. natural talent to speed up casting animation because Limbo's casting animations are quite lengthy, and the intensify for that last bit of power strength. Now, I have corrosive projection for the aura slot due to the fact that Limbo is able to generate energy well inside the rift, and he'll be visiting the rift so frequently, he basically has an improved version of Energy Siphon already in his kit, so he doesn't need Energy Siphon. So he is one of the best warframes to be running slots like these. And then finally, I personally prefer to use Rush in order to increase his movement speed because it's very handy to get to down teammates in a pinch and be able to rescue them from bad situations. It also makes it much easier for me to evade projectile-based weapons, which increases my ability to participate in combat as Limbo, so this is another workaround that I use. Now, although Limbo is my favorite warframe, there are several issues that are holding him back. One of those issues being, it's minor, but his abilities are very easy to intercept. Now, if you are on Limbo's team, and if you run out in front of him, his banish can be intercepted at the last moment, so if you run out in front of him and he's trying to banish an enemy, he can hit his teammates by accident. So if you're on a team with Limbo, be careful when running out in front of him, or he will get you by accident. Another pet peeve issue being that Cataclysm, when given the opportunity, will prioritize enemies that are standing right behind you, and because of that we get problems like this. You see, I was aiming at the gunner right in front of me, but because I had an enemy right behind me, it decided that I wanted to put Cataclysm there instead, when I obviously did not want to do so. Now, another problem being that there is a significant difference between Banish and Cataclysm. Now, you see, Banish actually knocks enemies down and gives me the chance to attack. However, watch what happens when I use Cataclysm. They aren't knocked down. And when I don't have crowd control, let's see what happens. I get shot at. They just keep shooting at me. I'm given no opportunity to fight back during that time. It's free. So for Banish, I get a free shot, but for enemies, the whole squad of enemies gets free shots at me. And due to this, it takes a lot to get Limbo to function. As you can see, I am using my Horus Kubro. Now, if you have a Shade Sentinel or Horus Kubro, I really suggest you give it to Limbo because he needs that extra layer of invisibility. As you saw earlier, they were not able to always attack me due to the fact that the Kubro was giving me periodic invisibility, which does help in giving Limbo the opportunity to fight back or do something outside the rift, because he'll just constantly get shot at otherwise. So, due to all these issues, the two biggest issues being that he's not given the chance to attack with Cataclysm, and the gunfire of his teammates get blocked. So say you have Banshee who wants to attack a group of enemies and Limbo puts Cataclysm over on top of it, Banshee won't be able to do any damage. She would have to walk inside Cataclysm, meaning that she has to be close to them, basically in melee range, before she's able to do damage to them. Now for Valkyr that won't be an issue, but for Banshee that's suicidal. And not all teammates are Valkyr, and not all teammates play the same. So due to this, Limbo requires his team to play in a very specific way, and he requires a very specific team setup in order to give Limbo the best chance possible of being able to participate more in combat. And due to these issues, Limbo is not really able to function as a divide and conquer warframe in most cases, because he'll be forced into the rift and he'll just be hiding over here in the corner, twiddling his thumbs, basically waiting, quite literally waiting for the game to give him the permission to actually participate, which is not good for the player. Because of this, Limbo, a lot of cases, ends up functioning more as a babysitter warframe. He essentially has an identity crisis. Now there is another warframe that had an identity crisis called Saren. She was a damage over time. She is a damage over time warframe, but she had an issue where it was arguably more practical to use her as an instant nuke frame, and she got fixed into playing more effectively as a damage over time warframe. Now unfortunately, Limbo often ends up playing more effectively as a babysitter warframe in a lot of scenarios, and this is due to the fact that Unlike warframes such as Frost, Limbo does not automatically marry offensive and defensive play. With Frost, you put up Snow Globe, you have a shield up to protect you from fire, so long as you stand inside of it, but you can shoot out of it. With Limbo, however, you have to make a decision. Are you on the defensive, or are you going to play offensively? And for Limbo to work, the player has to be able to swap back and forth between the tactics on the fly. They need to be able to make those decisions in order to balance out Limbo's playstyle for him to perform as optimally as possible. However, if you make it so that one style of play or one type of decision, such as going on the offensive, if you make offensive tactics not viable in the majority of situations, then Limbo is not going to be able to perform what his job is, because it's just not possible or practical for the player to be able to balance Limbo's playstyle by swapping back and forth between the two tactics, because they can't. It's not practical to go on the offensive. It's suicidal in a lot of situations. I have to use a Horus Kubrau. I am using 2 Syndicate weapons in order to get around the Rift mechanic and get around all of his issues, and some of these solutions should honestly be included into his kit. Now, what would fix his problems would be that, 1, when you cast Cataclysm, it should stagger enemies in the area, so that you actually have the opportunity to get 1 or 2 shots in without almost immediately dying or taking a bajillion bullets to the face. Secondly, when an enemy is banished or affected by Cataclysm, if a teammate shoots the enemy or strikes it with a melee attack, they should automatically be banished, so that all attacks following after that would actually affect the targeted enemy that they're trying to go after, because they obviously want to attack that enemy, and this way it will also simultaneously protect them from every other enemy in the room. So this way teammates will be able to cooperate with Limbo much more quickly and fluidly, and actually allow Limbo to fulfill his role of being a divide and conquer warframe by making it possible for him and his teammates to actually section off a group of enemies and gang up on them in order to make it much easier to take on the enemy forces by not being overwhelmed. So that's Limbo in a nutshell. Now, I know I have made very clear that he has several issues, but it isn't 100% impossible not to use him. He is actually usable. It just takes way too much to get him there, and even after making a loadout specifically for him in order to get around his issues, being stuck inside the Rift for extended periods of time and not really seeing any opportunity to proactively or more actively being able to participate in combat happens way too often, even after all that work. So seems like he caters to players that want to feel more mentally engaged in the game compared to other warframes. He expects a little more from you than compared to other warframes, but unfortunately, instead of just a little, he expects a lot more, to the point it may not be humanly possible at this time to do all that without help. So I hope you enjoyed the video and found this to be very informative, and I will be reviewing other warframes as I continue my play of the game. So until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.